Welcome to Sacred Sublimity with the preview of the upcoming Sunday school lesson from John 2:13 to 25 entitled Cleansing the Temple. Let us read the scripture text together.
John 2:13 to 25, King James, version 13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. 14. And found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting. 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep, and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. 16. And said unto them that sold doves, Take these things hence, make not my Father's house an house of merchandise. 17. And his disciples remembered that it was written, The zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. 18. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, What sign showest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? 19. Jesus answered, and said unto them, Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. 20. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? 21. But he spake of the temple of his body. 22. When therefore he was risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this unto them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Jesus had said. 23. Now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, in the feast day, many believed in his name, when they saw the miracles which he did. 24. But Jesus did not commit himself unto them, because he knew all men. 25. And needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. May God add his blessings to the readers and hearers of his word.
The sacred space was overrun by the clatter of business. Jesus entered this scene, seeing merchants and money changers selling animals for sacrifice and money changers exchanging currency right inside the temple grounds, profiting from those who came to worship. Passover was the greatest festival for Jewish people, a time to remember how God rescued them from slavery in Egypt. Every year, families traveled to Jerusalem, filling the city with excitement and hope. They came to worship at the temple, the heart of their faith, a place of prayer and sacrifice. The temple was meant to be a sacred place, dedicated to God, a place for all people to meet him. Jesus' action exposed the corruption and demanded change. This was a turning point, a challenge to the entire religious system. The people were stunned. The authorities were threatened. By clearing the temple, Jesus declared that business as usual was no longer acceptable. Jesus called the temple
My Father's house,
claiming a unique authority. Jesus' anger was a passionate defense of true worship. The disciples remembered the scripture,
Zeal for your house will consume me.
To those selling doves, he commanded,
Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market.
Seeing the corruption, Jesus acted. He made a whip from cords and drove out the merchants and animals. Jesus overturned the money changers' tables, scattering coins everywhere. The old temple was passing away. A new way to meet God was being revealed. Jesus himself became the meeting place between God and humanity. The promise was tied to Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. The true sign was Jesus' victory over death. Faith would now be centered on him. The future of worship was forever changed. The disciples didn't understand at first, but after the resurrection they remembered what Jesus had said.
Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.
But Jesus wasn't talking about the building. He was speaking of his own body. He was the true temple, the place where God dwelled on earth. Destroy this temple pointed to his coming death. I will raise it, foretold his resurrection.
The leaders were baffled.
How could anyone rebuild the temple in 3 days? The authorities confronted Jesus.
What sign can you show us to prove your authority?
By challenging the temple, Jesus was inaugurating a new covenant centered on himself. Jesus showed more zeal for God's house than its own leaders. It seemed like he was defending the temple, but he was actually announcing its replacement. The riddle about destroying and raising the temple was the key. Jesus' act was a living parable, exposing the temple's corruption. Jesus' cleansing of the temple echoed the bold actions of Israel's prophets. The story ends with open access to God, not confined to a building, but found in Jesus. In Jesus, heaven and earth meet, and we are welcomed into God's family. Jesus' zeal was for all people to know the Father. The cleansing of the temple was fulfillment, not destruction, and invitation to real relationship. Jesus' death and resurrection established a new way. He is the perfect sacrifice and the great high priest. Through Jesus, access to God is open to everyone, everywhere. God's deepest desire is to dwell with his people. The temple was a sign, but Jesus is the reality, the true meeting place between God and humanity.